Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We will get started here in just 1 minute. I'm going to let people kind of trickle in before we get started, but we appreciate you being here with us today as we talk about using tribal products in retail and vertical integration. So we'll give it here just 1 minute, and then I will do a quick introduction and some housekeeping. Okay, great. So we're starting to get more people in. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about using tribal products in retail and vertical integration. So we appreciate you joining our monthly webinar. This is one that we have every month on the third Thursday. And I want to welcome our presenters for today, Chris Roper and Shelby Crum at the Indigenous Agriculture LLC. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you have any questions to ask, please do so using the questions and answer function at the bottom of your screen or using the Zoom account. Type in your question and we will answer them as we conclude the webinar or as we go along. We will also be sending around this PowerPoint presentation and the webinar recording, as well as a link to register for the next webinar in the series via email to all registrants next week. I hope everyone enjoys this excellent opportunity, and I will now pass to Chris Roper.
Thank you, Whitney. I appreciate it. And we welcome everybody to our third Thursday webinar series. We're getting so close here to the end of the year. Thanksgiving next week. We all have a lot to be thankful for. Today's topic is using tribal products in retail and vertical integration. It's really exciting. Usually inside tribes, when they get to this point, it means they're really growing. Not only growing products, but they're growing businesses, growing people. So it's a really exciting time. As we have done these webinars over the last several months, we're really leading up to, food processing, selling these products inside your tribe, using them inside your own facilities. So we hope that if you followed us throughout the last several months, that you're seeing us try to integrate our previous webinars and keep building upon the process. So if you're a part of any of the webinars and you've used some of those tools already, you can see how those tools can be used, even getting to vertical integration. So we'll get started. If you can go to the next slide, please. Our agenda today, we'll review our past webinars. We'll talk about vertical integration and planning. We'll talk about the food distribution and the various retail outlets that you can use your products in. We'll discuss some of the food security issues and somewhat recap, the food security topics that we talked about last month. And then again, we'll go through funding opportunities that are open right now. And again, I encourage you to look at new opportunities that are coming out. It seems like every week there are more and more funding opportunities, especially within USDA, various departments that are coming out, and it can be cumbersome sometimes to stay on top of these, especially if you're getting the email blast that we talk about signing up for to different organizations. So again, make sure you're getting them. There might be the perfect funding opportunity coming out. You just never know. So it's a lot to stay on top of sometimes, but it can be very worthwhile. And we'll wrap up with any questions we may have. Next slide. So our episode 1 was business planning, really thinking about the business that you want to start. We focus a lot of the topics about food processing and meat processing. We're really geared to help with agriculture, as Native American Ag Fund is as well. But you can use these tools for a lot of different businesses. Grant writing, trying to find money, that's always important to everybody. Seem like about all the tribes we work with, they come up with ideas of things they want. And then as you try to pair up the ideas you have with a particular grant, and then go out and seek that grant, write the grant, and then hopefully funding comes in. So it's definitely a process and can take some time to go through. So you definitely have to be patient as you're developing new enterprises and entities and developing your food security programs. Episode 3 was standing up infrastructure. Number 4 was labor and training opportunities. And episode 5 was the HACCP and food safety plans. If you miss any of these, you can go onto NAF's website, and they're also on YouTube. So You can always go back and review those later or share those with somebody that you think could benefit from those. Next slide, please. When you talk about vertical integration, uh, when you specifically look up the definition, it's combining two or more stages of production in one company. But as we're talking about vertical integration, we're typically talking specifically about tribes. Vertical integration, you think about that and you think about what products that you can grow or develop yourself. Um, you want to try to keep this money inside your own operation or inside the tribe. If you can grow it, process it, manufacture it, you can control the funds, you can control the supply chains. You won't see as many supply and demand issues as you see on our markets right now. Your products won't be stuck on a boat out in the ocean somewhere waiting to be unloaded. You won't be waiting on a semi to move products from one factory to another. So a lot of those issues just go away when you are making these products yourself. You're also building future capacity. You're doing education and outreach, not only within your tribe, but you're training people to be managers. You're training your tribe members to manage these businesses. That should be one of your number one goals. And as you become successful in each individual operation, you also are able to go out and do education and outreach with other tribes and help other tribes be successful. In the last 5 or 6 years, the growth in tribes vertical integration has been amazing. It's been amazing to see, and tribes all over the country are looking to find what products that they can make, produce, grow, process, and it's really phenomenal to see. Um, uh, if you look at NAF's website, you can look at some of the grant recipients. You can look at the Intertribal Ag Council's website and see tribes that have all kinds of different facilities and products. They're growing food, they are making wine, they are developing orchards. Just it's amazing to see all the various growth throughout Indian country. It's really amazing. The funding opportunities that you can not only help find, but you can share those with people as you find a path to be successful on developing a food processing or manufacturing facility. You can share that information with these tribal organizations and other tribes that are trying to do the same thing in various parts of the country. And that's where the regional food operations can really be successful. Once you find a successful model, you can replicate that model and help other members of tribes in various parts of the country. And it multiplies so fast. It's really amazing. Vertical integration also honors traditional food pathways from seed to table. You've heard this terminology a lot over the last few years, but when you can take traditional seeds, teach people how to plant them and grow products and use them in your own facilities, it's really amazing. And that works that way with your livestock as well, whether it's beef or bison, pork, whatever it is you're trying to grow, you're truly making the pasture to plate program successful and the seed to table program successful. Um, you can also reach out further and take care of your communities. As a tribe, you'll have to sit down and figure out what your priorities and goals are. Obviously, you want to probably take care of your tribe members first. You might want to be looking to take care of your employees. You could be trying to take care of your immediate community. And then hopefully, eventually, you're trying to take care of your region. So, setting your goals is very extremely important. Next slide. So planning vertical integration, we'll kind of tag on to what I started talking about a little bit more. But when you look at developing partnerships, you're really trying to figure out where your products are going. You're trying to figure out what is needed in your area. It can be a casino, it can be a hotel, it can be your wellness centers, it can be your daycares, it can be your elder center, Title VI programs. You have to think about what you're wanting to make, what the needs are, and then how to go about doing that. So some of the things to think about are tribal trade. Are you going to grow products or produce products that you could potentially trade with other tribes for things that you need, things that they don't grow or that you don't grow that they possibly produce, and help develop this regional food um, processing that can happen, and it is happening in a lot of areas. Intertribal co-ops is something that we listed because tribes can work together to build food systems, and one tribe can grow certain things and another tribe can do something different and then go back and trade, and you can have a conglomerate of tribes doing that. Say it's 10 tribes. If you have 10 tribes in a region, can each one of them do something and then trade amongst the other tribes and be successful? Absolutely. You can also work with retail outlets that are tribally owned. You can work with retail outlets that are owned by another tribe. You can work with retail outlets that are non-tribal. We'll say it's a grocery store, sporting goods stores. It can be any number of things, whatever's in your area. But you really need to have the conversations with these groups and these people to figure out how your products need to get to them. So you can have ideas of what products you're going to make. It can be wine, olive oil, coffee, beef, bison, vegetables, whatever your products are, identify those, identify what you can be successful at, and then figure out who your partners are. And when we mention partners, that can be people that you're selling this product to. It can be people that are distributing your products. It can be anyone that's touching your products. You need to know what each one of those groups needs to be able to get your products out, and that can mean various labeling concerns. It can be packaging concerns. It can be size of packages. All your different partners and all your different vendors could have different requirements that you need to know before you build your facility or start to develop your products. You need to take time to get buy-in from your community and your stakeholders, which could be your tribal council. It can be your department directors that run different facilities. It can be general managers. It can be, any number of people that you're planning on dealing with. At certain tribal vertical integration projects, we've seen them start with an analysis of casino orders and retail outlet orders. You can literally scan an accounting sheet and see what products are being purchased and how much of those products are being purchased. And you can look at that and say, hey, we know we're spending X number of dollars on these particular products, and you can identify the products that you can make internally and internally as your tribe, and we can keep that money in house. So if you're spending $1 million on one particular product that you feel like you can grow or produce yourself, that's one way of looking at vertical integration and one way of planning your vertical integration. But you have to get the buy-in from all the parties that are involved in order for that to be successful. So one example we listed was the meat. If you're looking at putting your beef or your bison products into your casinos, elder centers, daycares, you need to get all parties together and figure out how it needs to be packaged, what the pricing structure looks like, how it's going to get delivered from point A to point B, what the boxing looks like, what the packaging. You have to look at every piece of that to know how this operation is going to work. And you can use some of our previous webinars to talk through that when you're talking about business planning, or if the specifics of a meat processing plant or standing up infrastructure. All of those have some tools in there that you need to be thinking about. The food sovereignty assessments and market studies are a great one to think about, to look at what the needs are. If you have a food distribution program, even, and you have products that you can't get, specifically the culturally significant products. If you want to grow products to get back out to your tribe members to reintroduce tribal foods, this is a great idea to possibly put into greenhouses or a canning operation or a meat processing facility. But you can get this data from your food sovereignty assessments and your market studies to know what your people are looking for. So you really need to do your homework and think about these various products that could be done in your tribe and that you can be successful at. You don't want to build something and not be successful, but you would hope to be able to grow that and fill a need that's inside of your tribe or inside of your community. Shelby, is there anything else on that you think I missed or you want to add to?
Yeah, I can just say some of the food sovereignty assessments, we went over this in some more detail in our very first webinar, but some of the questions that you can use to ask that is just ask the community members, what would you eat more of if it was more available? Or what, if you're thinking about starting a meat processing plant and you see you're having spending a lot of money on meat, ask them what kind of meat the community wants to eat. Maybe what they want and what they're buying are two different things, but only one product is available and they'd really rather have something else. Or you could ask, one of the questions I've asked before is, why aren't you buying tribally produced meat? And maybe it has nothing to do with the price, and maybe it has more to do with availability or vice versa. You could ask what types of vegetables they most like. And so if you're trying to start a greenhouse and you're looking for people to buy that product, ask your community who are going to be your customers what they want and what they're lacking, and see. And that could be a good starting point to start the vertical integration process as well.
It is, and be careful. You'll have to really sort through the market studies and the food sovereignty assessments and really analyze the needs versus even complaints. You could be getting complaints on some of your assessment surveys or analysis that you really want to weed through those and make sure that you're taking care of serious issues and you're providing products that people will truly use. I know a lot of tribes in various areas are facing, the food desert issues where there's not a grocery store within an hour. And talk to different tribes that are working on mobile markets, mobile food trucks, mobile, just any different way to mobily get products out to their tribe. So really pay attention to your results and try to plan your integration with what is needed in your tribe and in your community. Next slide. Food distribution. We've talked about this just a little bit, but determine who you will start serving. Each type of facility has different packaging, quantity, and safety standards. And we talked about this a little bit, but say if you're looking at a casino who has a large commercial kitchen, they could be looking at larger cuts of meat. They might be looking at 50-pound packages versus your convenience store that might only be able to take 10 or 15 pounds at a time. And to retail products, it's going to require smaller packaging. Each product's going to have to be labeled versus your larger institutions. It could be a hospital, casino, hotel. They're going to be able to handle larger packages that can be labeled differently, boxed differently, and shipped differently. All of these things are important. And you have to tie that back to your licensing, inspection, and safety standards. You go back to our food safety webinar last month. And when you're talking about HACCP planning at your meat processing, you have to think about how these different processes are going to affect your manufacturing and processing facilities. So doing your upfront work early is important so that you can plan your processing facilities right. You can go back in and change after you're open, and you're going to have to be flexible because you could have new customers come in at any time. But you want to try to capture as many different issues early on so that you don't have to address and adjust later, because it could mean different types of equipment. We talked about some of the equipment planning in a meat processing plant. The packaging machines that you have to do institutional size products is different than a packaging machine for, say, retail products. So these things really need to be thought about, and again, reach out and get help if you don't have people internally that can do that. But you want to really think through these processes to get your facilities set up right. Shipping and logistics issues, trying to get food processed and transported across states. Again, this can be trucking issues, this can be labeling and packaging issues, it can be licensing issues, backlog, but taking control of your food security, food sovereignty, vertical integration. As you can see, it's all tied together. So have a good plan and work your plan and make everything successful. The food safety and under inspections and licensing, we talked about this quite a bit in our HACCP webinar. But again, reach out if you have questions about how things need to be packaged or labeled to serve different stores or different areas or different states. You just want to make sure and capture as many issues as possible early on as you're developing. Next slide, please. Some of the retail outlets that we are used to seeing that work really well with the tribes is your casino restaurants, your hotel restaurants, lounges, a potential mercantile outlet that maybe it's your hotel, casino, mercantile. It could be, your convenience stores. It can be childcare facilities, elder care, Title VI facilities, gift shops, farmers markets and food hubs, or even tribal grocery stores. All of these things play into your vertical integration and your planning of the vertical integration. Again, you can tackle one product at a time potentially, but as you think about your vertical integration inside of your tribe, these are all facilities that you want to be talking to see what their needs are and how you can possibly take care of demand that they have internally. And this helps keep those dollars inside your tribe. So if your casinos and convenience stores are buying X number of dollars of products and that money is leaving your tribe, you can work to keep that money internal. You can keep those jobs internal, and you can train tribe members to perform those jobs and to manage that operation ultimately. But keep that money inside the tribe as much as possible. Next slide, please. Another program we wanted to mention to you is once you have a product and once you are labeling and processing products, a program that is available through the Intertribal Ag Council is the Made and Produced by American Indians label. You can actually contact the Intertribal Ag Council and you can list your products under their trademark, and you can use this as trademarking label on your label. You can put this symbol on your label and it'd be verified made and produced by American Indians. And this goes a long way, especially if you're looking and starting to get into the export market. Intertribal Ag Council can even help you export your products overseas, and you would use this trademark if you're doing that as well. So again, something we wanted to bring up to you. If you do have products now, please get in touch with them and let them know everything that they can do to help you with that. Next slide. Community food security. Something that all these things are important, but some of the things that we see and foods that don't meet retail standards can be donated. And what we mean by that is typically your grocery store and your retail outlets will only take a certain grade or quality of vegetable, of herb, of meat, etc. And the rest of the products you're producing, if they have any blemishes on them, scars, maybe it's a different grade, you have to find other outlets to be able to use all of those products. You don't want to have to throw that away. So, what we mean by retail standards is using every product that doesn't meet that retail standard. So, you want to find the alternates, you want to find food box programs, funerals, powwows, community meals, schools. Uh, you can do a lot with this product. It's still good product. And we've seen this in a lot of tribes where you build a facility and understandably not every product that you produce or manufacture there ends up being the top grade. You end up with number twos or number threes or B's and C's, depending on what product it is you're grading. But those products do have a purpose and they can be used. And you need to plan for that when you're building your facilities. You can also take your surplus. You want to find outlets to donate to. You want to find different outlets that can take every level, even if it's waste. If you have waste products that you do have to throw away, you need to find where that can go. That's environmentally friendly. That maybe it's to animal. Maybe it can be used as an animal feed somewhere, or maybe it can be used or recycled for something else. So you really need to think through every process there. When you have internally controlled cold storage and inventory management, this increases your ability to even take donations yourself. You're able to store products longer. You're able to use your cold storage and inventory to manage on demand. Think about when COVID-19 hit over a year ago now. A lot of the store shelves were empty. Your shelves don't have to be empty. You can have your freezers, you can have your coolers, you can have products stocked there. You can have your retail outlets that can be managed by yourself. You can manage inventory. You can manage if you do get down to a point where you're having to ration products, you can control that. And that can all be internally controlled, and you won't be reliant on a grocery supplier or another a food donation bank. So anything that you can control yourself is better for your community and your tribe. Anything on that, Shelby? Did I miss anything?
I just think making sure if you are in control of the retail outlets that all these products are going to, you have even more control over the products that you started with, as what Chris was saying. But the farmers market, in particular, if you're growing that produce, you are making sure that while you still want other vendors to come in and sell all their products and make a living also, you're guaranteed to have product at your market every week if you have your own garden to grow it, or if you have your own greenhouses to grow it. And also at the end of the market, if something doesn't sell and it's not going to stay good until the next market, then you can turn around and donate whatever is left, and you're still giving back to those who can't even afford maybe the farmers market products. And so you're keeping it in your vertical integration all the way through. And versus if you were to have a greenhouse and sell it to another retailer, they might just throw it away when it's no longer good. They're going to keep it on their shelf as long as possible and then probably throw it away. But you can make sure that your community keeps it inside the community the whole time if you have the whole process within your tribe.
That's right. And food composting is another thing that's really growing. When you look at unused food product or waste food product, even it could be scraps or trimmings that you're throwing away, those can all be composted and turned into a valuable product that can be used, to grow other foods or grow other products. You can use that for fertilizer, for flower beds, raised beds, Again, you're seeing that product all the way through from seed all the way to end of life or end of use even. So really think through all these processes to make sure you're utilizing the products to their extent. Next slide. Some of the funding opportunities that we've seen this month, one of them is the Community Food Projects competitive grant program. This one closes on December 20th. So it's coming up before you know it, but this particular grant will fund a lot of things that we've talked about, depending on what your ideas are. But when you're talking about food in general and getting it out to your tribe and your community, you really should be looking at this grant. The USDA Farm to School grant. This is one that Shelby actually has a lot of experience on. It closes January 10th. It can be very valuable even for your tribal schools. If you have schools on your land, it can be daycares even. Keep that in mind, or it can be a local school. But this is one that you can work with direct and work with your schools and try to get those healthy foods into your local schools. The Rural Business Development Grant, this closes February 28th. Again, this through rural development. Some different classifications on this one. You want to really read this grant completely to see if it fits your program. But we highly encourage you all to follow grants.gov regularly. There's new grants every week. So if you need help or assistance to any of that, you can always reach out to us and we'll help guide you or at least point you in the right direction if you're looking for something specific. Next slide, please. Financial resources, and check out the Native American Ag Fund website, the Native Farmer Rancher Fisher Sovereignty Series, that is obviously still going on. Business planning, sources of farm financial information, all of this information is on the NAF website. So I know Whitney has posted a lot of information in the chat box. So make sure that you capture all those. Next slide. Some of our upcoming webinars, December 16th, how tribal foods tie into feeding programs. January 20th, ag policy. February 17th, food distribution, storage, and logistics. March 17th, regional food models and opportunities. April 21st, lessons learned and best practices for building agriculture. And May 19th is building native agriculture, our overview. That'll be the last webinar we do for our series. And we obviously want to help and grow and give you all the information that you're looking for when you need it. So if there's things that you're looking for specifically before one of these webinars comes up, feel free to reach out anytime. Next slide. Here's Shelby and I's contact information. We actually even have our cell numbers there. You're welcome to email us, reach out, call us. Again, if you have any issues that come up in between webinars or questions along the way, please feel free to reach out. And I think now we're ready to take some questions if we have any questions.
Feel free to put your questions in the question box, and I will just reiterate Chris's point that I included a couple of resources as they were speaking along there. First was when he mentioned the intertribal cooperatives. So I shared a rural cooperatives in Indian country. It's a really great resource and some webinar opportunities to look at that. Also, we provided a quarterly market report when talking about market data, and as well as the link to the ISU trademark there. If you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat box here. Looks like we have one more. Is a food sovereignty assessment? Yes, I can share that link. And Shelby and Chris, do you want to speak on that food sovereignty assessment from First Nations just a little bit?
Yeah, this is Shelby's expertise area for sure. So I'll let her handle this one, Dawn.
Yeah, so First Nations has a food sovereignty assessment toolkit, I believe is what they call it. And it has, it is a very extensive resource. It has examples of other ones. It gives you kind of case studies on what other tribes have done and how they've done it successfully, and has tons of questions that you can kind of sort through and filter depending on what your needs are. And I can share some others with Whitney as well that I've worked on or that I collected while I was working on developing my own food sovereignty assessments. But the First Nations one is one that I definitely started with myself, and that Whitney just posted in the chat. And so we can definitely share that.
And Don, there are several tribes that have performed these food sovereignty assessments that are sharing them on their websites as well. So we can try to help you get linked up and get some of those assessments. And, you know, there's surveys that you start with. So you're going to develop your own survey, and then you're going to figure out what questions you need to ask to get to a specific point or area that you're looking to get to. So definitely reach out. I would call Shelby if you have some specific questions on that, but we'll point you to the websites that can really help you there.
Yeah, and for food safety resources, it looks like Whitney just sent you a link to some as well. And our last webinar was all about food safety. And so you can also watch our webinar from last month, and we linked a lot of resources in that as well, and linked to a lot of different places that can help you filter through what you need.
Yeah, and on food safety, the Indigenous Food and Agriculture Group out of Fayetteville, it's associated with University of Arkansas. They will actually provide you with free assistance as well if you're doing food safety plans, produce safety plans. They do FSMA training. So there's a lot of free resources out there available. We have any other questions?
Chris, I was curious, actually, one example, I don't know if any come to mind, learning more about the mobile markets. Are there any tribes that come to mind that you can provide an example of?
Yes. Well, there's one I will actually email you out a link. Dan Cornelius with the Intertribal Ag Council does a mobile market up in Wisconsin, I believe. And Dan has a website that I will share with you, but Dan is a technical assistance provider through the IAC, and Dan does a great job with those mobile markets. He is one I highly recommend, but there's also a group in Tulsa doing a mobile grocery store. They're calling theirs a grocery store. And we had this conversation earlier, but some cases, some cities and some states, you may need to call it a farmer's market, or you may need to call it a mobile market, depending on what your regulations and laws state. But technically you could name it whatever you wanted to, as long as you're abiding by all those local rules. But I'll get some emails out to you, Whitney, so you can maybe share with the participants or post online.
Perfect, and that's what we'll do. To all registrants of this webinar, we'll make sure to include those links that we have here in the chat box, as well as a recording to this webinar. And I believe the PowerPoint presentation has links in it as well, so you can go through that. And with that, I think that we're going to close up for today. Any last comments there, Chris or Shelby?
I think we're good, but those mobile markets are really popping up. That's becoming a really popular thing, especially for the tribes that are really spread out in their land base and have tribe members, you know, that are miles and miles away from each other. Those are really becoming popular. So we're seeing a lot of requests for more information on that.
Great.
If you partner with a school, you can actually get trailers with the farm to school grant. As one example. I'm not exactly sure about the specifics of the other two, but I have looked into that in the past with, you can't have permanent structures, but you can get trailers with the farm to school money.
I see Dawn just posted another question, but Whitney will email all the participants a list of those mobile markets that we know of. And then again, I mentioned Dan Cornelius with the Intertribal Ag Council. He's a technical assistance provider. We'll make sure and get a link and a number to him, because he is doing technical assistance on a lot of those markets, and he has one of his own. So we'll get that information to you all.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for joining. We look forward to seeing you on our next webinar, and we'll have that registration link to register for that one coming up in December. So thank you all for your time today, and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you all. Have a good Thanksgiving.